Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 75 today for the Austrian Grand Prix in Season 4. This is a sprint round, of course, so we've got double the action with the shorter sprint race on the Saturday and then the full Grand Prix on Sunday. But if you guys did miss the single Grand Prix at the Monaco GP last time out, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, which was the debut of our brand new gold leaf Team Lotus livery, which we still have and will have for the next two episodes, including this one. All part of the deal we have with Radford Motors, that entire build-up of how we got Lotus into Formula 1 in partnership with ourselves. And Monaco, although it was a challenge, of course, by being knocked out in Q2 on the Saturday and working our way up, we left that Grand Prix still in the lead of the Drivers' Championship and having done the maximum damage limitation, to be honest, because the closest man to us in the championship, Leclerc, only finished one position higher than us, and it was all about Carlos Sainz because he dominated that entire weekend, the fastest man on Saturday, and then took the win on the Sunday. And because he had such a slow start to the season, he's catapulted himself now high up into what is with 44 points just behind Sebastian Vettel. But in terms of the top of the standings, still feeling pretty damn good off the back of Monaco. And I think we can actually do some really good work around Austria. Generally speaking, the My Team car does go very well around here. We go very well around here. Last season, of course, we had our issues with our then teammate Carlos Sainz, you know, in the sprint race and then in the full Grand Prix, we ended the race with an engine failure. But hopefully we won't be encountering any sort of thing like that this time round in Season 5. And at the start of Friday, in our first qualifying session, we are showing some pretty damn good pace around the Red Bull Ring, going top initially, then down to P3, but you can see it's so tight at the top, just a couple of thousands of seconds between myself, Leclerc and Sainz. But Sainz does look like to be in fine form then, topping the session, but of course Q2 and Q3 to come, and things can change, so the track gets quicker and quicker. Vettel, though, up in P4, so maybe Audi just generally have some good speed around here. Ferrari looking a bit good, with Verstappen up into P7, and they're going to need to be after another engine failure for the Dutchman, but also another team that needs to look a lot better, especially considering it's their home race, the Austrian team, the Red Bull Racing team, you know, for all the celebration of Honda power with the white Red Bull this season. They're having an absolute torrid time of it, trying to celebrate that engine of theirs, because Lando Norris suffered his third engine failure out of 4 races at Monaco, so they're going to need a bit of a boost to performance. Albon in the top 10 at the moment. We get ourselves up into the top 10 with a P5. We go again on the same set of tyres, I might add, to try and improve that, because I thought, oh, P5 might just be a little bit close for comfort in terms of we know how close things were in the first qualifying session, and we had to use the same set of tyres because we have a very limited selection being a sprint round, even more so than usual with the new tyre allocation ever since that patch came in, I think in December was it last year. But I had no improvement. I actually lost some time in Sector 2, and so we're just going to come in to the pit lane. We're now sitting P7, and I'm hoping that'll be enough, and thankfully we stay put in P7, and that will be enough. But Sonoda, our teammate, unfortunately got knocked out, but to be fair, not going to hold it against him because things are just supremely close between everyone. You know, a quarter or 3/10 of a second covering the top 11 is pretty mad. But again, Sainz topping this session. Are we seeing a brand new Carlos Sainz here for Audi? You know, so far Vettel has taken all the plaudits and he's looking the better driver, but ever since last episode, well, for the second time now, Vettel is knocked out in Q2. So has the reigning champ, the 6-time world champion, has he started to lose just a bit of pace here now at as we get into kind of the heart of the European portion of the season? Well, let's find out in Q3 how things go, featuring both Mercedes, Red Bulls and Haas cars, so competition is going to be fierce, and you know, you'd like to think the Red Bulls will be really up for trying to get as high as they can to try and salvage something before it gets a bit too late in this season. So that first lap initially for us, I thought it was a pretty decent lap, P5 at the moment, but I think we actually lost quite a bit of time in this corner coming up the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2, because on the exit I had quite a bit of oversteer, and you can see there on the top right we've actually gained about 3/10 alone just in that one corner exit. And despite all the pace that Carlos Sainz has shown in Q1 and Q2, I don't think he's actually done very well in this last crucial top 10 shootout. I think we're going to try and catapult ourselves up and be battling the Mercedes maybe in the Haas for the top positions, and we're able to get the top position. It's a surprise pole position. I knew we improved our lap time quite a lot there, but I didn't think it would be enough to get pole, and to be fair, oh, look how close it is. 0.029 in between myself and Leclerc, the top two in the championship, on the front row for the sprint race on Saturday. It is getting locked in, and as the races go, I have a feeling that Leclerc and myself might be locked into a title battle. There's still plenty of opportunity, though, for other drivers to get involved, of course. Albon, he's got to be ecstatic with his second row for the Red Bull car. And, you know, in contrast, Sainz disappointed to be down in P9 after all of that pace shown in Q2 and Q1. So, all to play for, though. Still very early in the season, only round 5 this is, but the story at the start of this sprint race will be myself versus Leclerc off the 5 red lights. But, of course, this will just set the grid for the full Grand Prix on Sunday. But points on offer here, so important to try and make the most of it, and hopefully have the complete opposite of what happened in Season 4, where we broke our rear wing around here on the Saturday at the Red Bull Ring. So here we go then to 5 red lights for Saturday's sprint race around Austria from pole position. Lights out and away we go. We pointed our car right to try and cover off Leclerc, but that's been an absolute failure. Leclerc has got a stonking getaway in his Silver Arrow. He gets into turn 1 in first, but crucially, we're right behind him, haven't lost any more positions, and will actually benefit from a tow up the hill. So in a funny way, almost kind of good in a way that we lost the position, because we can try and get him back then. But a little bit of an awkward right-hander as myself and Leclerc bang tyres on the right-hand side, and the pinch-in didn't work as well as I hoped for, and he's still just about there. We're into first place, but Leclerc comes back at us over the curb, but then through goes Alexander Albon. How has he managed that? The Red Bull Honda at the Red Bull Ring leads the sprint race. He just sold us the dummy. He just took candy from a baby. I don't know how myself and Leclerc allowed that to happen, but he's up into first place then. We're down to third. Close behind, Russell. Bottas is the lead Repsol Haas car ahead of Drugovich, and then Max Verstappen. Leclerc's all over the back, though, of the Red Bull. So he had a great overtake, but it's not going to be easy for him to keep this position. His confidence and focus will be pretty low compared to Leclerc's, I feel, who's already won a race this season. But to be fair, the tie-Brit driver does defend quite well to turn 1. Perez out of the Grand Prix early on, or the sprint I should say, as we now are side by side with the Mercedes man who is gunning for first place. We're looking to overtake him, but instead he's gone on ahead and continues his battle with his old pal Alexander Albon. The two side by side, nothing between them two really as they go down through to the right-hander. The Mercedes with the advantage initially, but then the Red Bull just picks up great traction through that corner, just like he did beforehand on lap 1. But Leclerc, oh, what a move, sails round the outside of him. That's fantastic. Really thought Albon actually had that locked in, but looks like he's struggling a little bit now for some pace as we now go and attack him with a dose of battery to get through into P2. A little bit wide there, just about managed to hold the car on the front end through, and it looks like it's all unraveling a little bit behind for the Red Bull driver of Albon, because Russell now is through into third. He's down to 4th place. Drugovich has overtaken Bottas, but the Flying Finn is trying to come back at him to try and maybe assert a bit of dominance in the team, but the younger Brazilian still looking like the much quicker driver of the two. And close behind is Verstappen now in the Ferrari, looking to pounce and get some positions and maybe get one more point to add to his tally in this season. But everything's so close, and unlike Monaco, plenty of overtaking being allowed essentially with all the slipstream, whereas with Monaco it was a bit of a procession. Even with the overtaking we managed to do, not a lot of change over the race order for the AI. But here there is plenty of change and more change to come, I'm hoping, versus Leclerc. We kind of dummied him a little bit to try and make his line a bit tighter through the right-hander, and we're going to wait for this DRS zone, the second bite of the cherry, as the rear wing opens up, and we're using some battery as well to try and get round. And the outside, Leclerc's taken us wide. Oh, Leclerc with a huge lockup, and either intentionally or unintentionally, well, it doesn't really matter. Either way, he's taken us wide and nearly completely onto the grass. And it now means all of a sudden it's a 1-2 for Mercedes. So, I don't know what to feel about that. I mean, it could have just been a mistake and a lockup, but Leclerc takes us wide, and his teammate now is a buffer in between ourselves. So Leclerc is determined to try and make the most of this and try and gain in the championship. Is behind. It just continues to be a torrid season for Lando Norris in the Red Bull Honda. It's a broken front wing. He continues on for another lap because he missed the pit entry, and so that's going to be really painful. And behind, all hell is breaking loose. 2 by 2. Sainz now ahead of Verstappen. Tsunoda's got Liam Lawson. So many different drivers and teams as well, respectively, battling for those positions. And Lando being so slow with no front wing does not help, but he's finally in, and the battling will continue. Not even commence, continue through that entire bottom half of the tail. I mean, look how many cars there are, all left, right and centre, and we're going to try and do the same as we try and get past Russell. He wanted to stay to the right, but I was having none of it as we squeeze past him, even dipping a tyre briefly onto the grass to make the overtake to get back into a crucial P2 position. He might come back at us though, but we're going to defend this with everything we've got, and maybe even give him a taste of his own medicine, or I should say the Mercedes medicine, of running him wide like Leclerc did to us. Not maybe as harshly as the man from Monaco did, as we still remain on the circuit basically, but Drugovich with that is able to get into P3, and that might actually give us a bit of a bigger challenge, because we know how quick that Repsol Haas is in a straight line, and how good of a driver Felipe Drugovich has turned into in this series, on this game. He's going for a move. We're defensive on the inside. The Haas round the outside. We're still ultimately in P2 for now, but a lot of squirreling on the rear end, trying to pick up some traction, and he crucially has DRS, of course, and Russell is behind as well, so we need to worry about that. We're going to try and feed it through on the inside, but getting on that curb just doesn't give us the rotation we needed, and ultimately Drugovich does get the position. At this point, the damage is maybe done for Leclerc. I think he's going to go on to win this sprint round, because with the limited laps we have, we can't really afford a fight like this. So now it's all about trying to secure P2 to simply limit the damage that Leclerc can do with a sprint win. Of course, you know, very reduced amount of points in between each position, so it's not going to be too much, but every point could count at the end of this season. So we'll try and get Drugovich back if we can, stay in the DRS and be patient at turn 1, not making a move there, because it's a bit silly too, because now we can just easily waltz by him with DRS open. Not too much battery left over, so we're saving a little bit for this exit, and we'll actually go for an early brake zone and try and switch it from left to right and get the early exit on the throttle, and it is going to work for us, I think, because we now edge towards the next corner down the hill. Drugovich on the inside, but we're able to pick up the power so much earlier on the better racing line and get into P2. Drugovich still there on the outside, so a bit of work to do on the entrance to the next left-hander, but ultimately we are going to secure that P2 and now hopefully try and push away, but we've only got about 30% battery, so we need to be a little bit careful where we're deploying it, as we're now down into the low teens there, but I really need to try and break the toe from the Brazilian, really, to try and just feel comfy in the P2. And thankfully, by the last lap, we actually have got away a little bit, not a full second, but enough to just feel comfy by the last lap of the GP as the tyres started to wear out just a tad. It'll be second place. It's still the front row, you know, for tomorrow's Sunday Grand Prix. But Leclerc, well, 1-0 to Leclerc. He gets the sprint race win. He'll build, you know, he'll take that, I'm sure, with a bit of confidence into tomorrow's race. But we limit the damage. Only 1 point secured over us in the championship, so can't complain. but I do want to try and get back at him on the race start for Sunday's race. He managed to completely out-traction us on the 5 red lights this time round. Can it be different tomorrow? Let's see. But good race for Drugovich to get up into P3 from where he qualified, lower than Bottas, actually. And an okay recovery for the likes of Sebastian Vettel to finish up in P8. Albon managed to hang on to a P5, so signs of maybe some small progress for Red Bull. And also Ferrari with the Verstappen's P6. Disappointment on the other side of the garage, I'm sure, with Tsunoda being in P11. But we've got a long Grand Prix to come tomorrow. Let's go to the grid for Sunday.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of Turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position and the owner-driver alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Drugovich, Russell, Max Verstappen and Sainz, Vettel, Gasly, Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll and Ocon, Albon, Bottas, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Perez, Norris. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Fernando Alonso rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
This race weekend really does feel like myself versus Leclerc, and he got the better of us on Saturday, so it's all about this race start. And if he's there on pole position, that means there's nothing else we're going for apart from P1 and the race win today. Sunny skies to start off things, in contrast to yesterday where it was quite overcast, but there is some doom and gloom to come in the sky later, as there is rain forecast for the end of this race, which could completely flip the race on its head potentially. So not going to get carried away with how we do in the first opening laps, but I would like to get Leclerc early on just to have control of that track position hopefully, and also just a bit of mental games of getting ahead early on after his win yesterday. But quick people behind us: Drugovich, Russell, Verstappen in P5 because Albon picked up a grid penalty, so Ferrari may even get involved in the top 5 fight as we go to 5 red lights to the full fat Grand Prix here. The Austrian GP is underway. Lights out. Ryan Leclerc with a bit of wheel spin, but we can't make the most of it because we have our own set of wheel spin, and Drugovich is the one leading the charge. He's side by side and he's into the lead now of the Grand Prix. Leclerc comes back. We're there as well though, but where can we go? Left? No. Down the middle? No. And it's just a traffic jam basically with Leclerc and Drugovich holding pretty much every inch of the circuit. The inside wasn't an option because that would have just ended in utter disaster. And meanwhile behind, Max Verstappen up into P4 in the Ferrari. Drugovich defends the inside. We're going to try and follow him through to try and get that early pounce on Leclerc, and we are ahead in second place. It's not quite the P1 I thought it would be, but at least it's ahead of him, and Drugovic has more points to catch up in the championship than us, so don't mind that, and we know we can maybe go on to attack him, but more importantly, there is a virtual safety car out right now because of an incident for Lance Stroll, and it's going to be an early retirement for him, and this is why, just on the back of Mick Schumacher's Ferrari, the Canadian out of the GP. Quite a slow crash, contrasting to the amount of damage occurred on the front left there for the Aston Martin driver, but he is out, and that is why we're on the virtual safety car. But that is going to end now on lap 2, the end of sector 1. We're closing up to Drugovic, and he brake checks us a little bit on the exit, to be honest, because that wasn't as quick as you can take that right-hander, and we had about 3/10 in our pocket on the top right in terms of the delta time. So Felipe playing this clever. Remember, myself and both Drugovic, we both suffered engine failures in this Sunday Grand Prix around Austria last season. So both of us in the top 2 here have something to prove around this circuit that we could go on to win this race. And it is going to be indeed myself and him battling for the race lead early on. A little bit wide and deep into that right-hander on lap 3, but we get the better exit. DRS open for the second time, and we will get up into P1 for the first time in this GP. Leclerc still remains in third. Verstappen, well, he was up into P4, but 2 laps later, he's been pushed down to P6, even behind one of the McLarens of Gasly, and the McLarens really haven't even showed up really much this season, so a little bit of shame for him, and a shame for us to be once again back down to P2 underneath the rear wing of the Repsol Haas, but it's just so difficult to break the toe, and then even more difficult to stay behind the car ahead when they brake check you for the second time. So I don't know if it's on purpose or what, but Drugovic is playing all the cards he can to try and stop us attacking him and trying to break that toe himself, and something we haven't been able to do as Leclerc really sends it through into turn 1 with a bit of a lazy move, to be honest, because you saw how he drifted through the exit. Such was how late he went for the move, but he's actually going to stick with us and battle us once again in through to the next right-hand to the end of sector 1 into 2, and all the while, like Leclerc did on Saturday, Drugovic is getting away from us now, but the difference is we have a whole Grand Prix to go still, so not too worried about that, but we do need to try and shake the back of Leclerc quite urgently, because if it gets to more than about 4 seconds gap to Drugovic, it may be quite difficult to catch him up, so we need to get a move on and try and solidify this P2. Meanwhile, behind Sebastian Vettel up to P7 ahead of his teammate Sainz. So for all that Sainz did at Monaco, Vettel looks to be once again back in the groove of things ahead of his teammate Schumacher P9, Lawson in P10, leading a massive train which includes Tsunoda, Albon, Piastri, Bottas, and also Lando Norris at the back there. So pretty much all the people that suffered in the Saturday sprint then is behind Liam Lawson. So it's the Lawson train, but Tsunoda just gets up to P10 to be fair, so hoping he can have a go and keep going to maybe get some points for us in the Constructors' Championship, whilst Verstappen looks to try and come back at the McLaren. Verstappen versus Gasly, 2 former Red Bull teammates, now in 2 completely different teams and outlets. McLaren versus Ferrari, and the Ferrari looks to get the overtake done up into P5. So there are some glimpses of speed for this red car, but there's also a lot of bad luck and also some areas where they're weak at for sure, because Verstappen is making some good moves. He's made plenty of moves this season actually, but he also keeps falling behind as well and getting caught up in traffic, and he may just fall foul again of another overtake as he actually gets pushed wide and gets overtaken by Vettel. Oh, we are really not seeing the same Verstappen here. I really thought there would be a kind of reinvigoration of Verstappen in Ferrari like Vettel was for us when we signed him in Season 3. But those little mistakes, like he did in Monaco, remember, when he locked up, just aren't helping him. And meanwhile, behind this battle, just outside the top 10, it just keeps on going and going. But for the second time at this track, a Red Bull has gone into the back of a car. This time it's Albon, front wing off, and I think that may just have called out a safety car, not even just the virtual one, the full core safety car, and that will be everyone's cue to come in surely for the one stop onto the next set of dry tyres. It is a bit darker out there, but no signs of the rain yet, so we're all going to come in and get that free pit stop onto the hard tyres, and that should comfortably see us to any sort of period of rain. But That's very peculiar. The very similar, you know, incidents with the Red Bulls going to the back of someone. I wonder, maybe, are there issues all founded in some sort of brake, you know, a lack of brake performance maybe for Red Bull this season, on top of obviously the reliability issues, I don't know. But we make our pit stop onto the hards. Dragovic does as well, along with Leclerc. But to my surprise, ahead of us is Bottas and Gasly, I believe, and Norris has come out behind us in P5 on the same medium. So 3 drivers opting not to come in. Have they seen something that we haven't? Have their teams told them about something on the radar? Because they have actually fully committed to that, because we're now coming in, the safety car's coming in, we're going green again on lap 13. It is very overcast now, but those guys have stayed out of mediums, and myself and Dragovic now almost side by side as we try and get an early leap on the young Brazilian, just catching him napping a little bit, and maybe the lack of experience in Formula 1 catching him out there as he just doesn't really see us coming on the outside. And we're up into P2, effectively a net P1, as these two ahead of us go side by side, Bottas and Gasly. Unless the rain comes very soon, they're going to have to pit for a set of, you know, either softs or hards or whatever, and surely we'll get up into P1 as behind Norris, who catapulted himself up by also not pitting, is now falling away as those mediums surely are wearing out now, as Leclerc is up into P6. But Leclerc, sorry, I didn't notice, Leclerc's fallen foul of Verstappen. Verstappen's ahead of him, so that's great news for us in the championship, as the Ferrari is ahead of Leclerc, as it's 3 wide, oh my god, between the Ferrari, Audi and Porsche. There's some amazing scraps going on, and that was Schumacher up into P10, Sainz P11, as Lando and Leclerc have another duel down through that right-hander, and oh, the Porsche's spun it on the corner entry, and now there's a huge pile-up, and included in that is Albon and our teammate, Tsunoda. Tsunoda's out. Albon's out. That's a shame for us. That's a big blow for us. But now under a second safety car, as the rain starts to fall here, I make a big call, because the rain is falling down. It's been falling for the last lap or so, and it's very subtle, but you can see it coming off the halo and chassis. I'm going for a massive throw of the dice. This is a big gamble, because it still looks very dry right now, but I'm gambling on 2 laps of safety car being enough for us to maybe see the track be damp enough. I put on the intermediates. This might just be a disaster, or this could be the play of the race. We'll have to find out what, but yeah, it is a throw of the dice, but something just felt right. I just had a sense of, okay, you know what, let's go for this, because if it works, this will work very well. Like, we should be able to obtain a massive lead, because now we've all bunched up. We're P16 out of 18, but all these guys ahead of us, they're going to have to come in at some point for the intermediates, unless it doesn't rain enough to even warrant inters, but I don't think so, because the indicator pre-race did suggest it would even get to full wet tyres, maybe by the end of the race. So I'm just hoping the rain comes down quicker than it is now. At the moment, it is still fine for dry tyres, but I'm on intermediates. So this is odd, and this is going to be a huge throw of the dice, but let's see how it goes. It does look still very dry out there on the track surface. The rain is falling, but it's just not quick enough. So at the moment, we are not going to be on the pace. Lawson with a double overtake maybe on Hulkenberg and Ricciardo, as we're going to try and actually out-traction Hulkenberg. So to be fair, that right there might actually show us signs of maybe the track is just about damp enough to try and slow down these guys out of the traction zones. But mid-apex, do we have the grip? Yes, we do. And a bit of battery to help us. We're still jockeying for position with the German driver, but we are up into P15, so it's not too bad, you know. I mean, it's not electric pace, but it's not shocking. We're not, you know, spinning out or, you know, just going like a turtle. So this may just work if we can keep going. There are now some pit stops coming in for the likes of Gasly and Bottas, but I don't think they're for intermediate. So what did I say? Those guys that stayed out, it was a mistake. They should have come in under the first safety car, because now they've thrown their entire races away as we now try and go for another overtake, whilst I once again must say We're on intermediates on a dry track whilst everyone else is out on hard tyres. We've just made another overtake on Rick Bobby. Drugovich now in the lead. Verstappen's in P2 in the Ferrari. And Schumacher is trying to battle for P4 there. And he gets up into P4. It's a double top 4 for Ferrari. This might be their best race in a long while. In like 2 seasons while, I might add. Things are clicking for them maybe this episode as we continue to chase after this pack. Tail-ended by Liam Lawson. But there's a mistake for us. We go across the gravel and grass. Thankfully, we keep the car out the wall, but that is maybe the sign of us not being on the correct tyre. But thankfully, we kept it going, kept it out the wall, crucially, on the right-hand side there. And we've only lost, I would say maybe 7 or 8 seconds. I say only, that is quite a lot of time to lose, but that's the gamble we took. We knew there was a possibility of that. I'm just glad we didn't go into the wall and our race was over, but that wasn't part of the plan. But I just got a bit too overconfident, I think, trying to chase after Lawson. Thankfully, it wasn't race over, and to be honest, the reason why I was feeling overconfident was because the car does actually feel quite good. And as we go lap after lap, the rain is continuing to come down, and, well, my hope is that it is actually getting damper. It's hard to really tell because visually the track does look very similar, but there are some glimpses with our pace that things are getting better for us and worse for everyone else. We've got so many cars ahead. We go around the outside of Piastri and the Williams of Ocon and then switch it from left to right for the quadruple overtake on Ricciardo and Hulkenberg as well. 4 overtakes in 1 corner. This track is coming towards us, and it is getting wetter and wetter. Jeff keeps asking us to change over to dries. He doesn't know what he's on about. Mark doesn't know what he's on about. I know what I'm on about. I know this track is coming towards us, and Magnussen struggles for the corner exit. We go from left to right, and we're going to get the second Porsche Williams of this lap 21, and then go on to skate through to chase after Lawson, the man who we were chasing before that mistake. But I think we're on course to be vindicated by this throw of the dice because we are looking quicker and quicker as we go on through. Lawson with a bit of a shimmy and shake on the rear, and it's an easy overtake up into the top 7. And soon come these lot. Drugovich in first place. Verstappen still in second, but Leclerc is going to try and overtake him. We're on to lap 23, and these guys are still not in for intermediates. The track, to be fair, from these off-board cameras still looks pretty dry, actually, somehow. So it's a bit of a weird kind of 2012 Sao Paulo situation where it looks wet, but the dries still give the grip. But by the end of that lap, as Verstappen fended off Leclerc for P2, Perez is coming in ahead in the Renault. He had a torrid time having a DNF in the sprint round, but doing quite well so far in this race. But they're all in now, finally, I think, for the intermediates. And we are going to come through and gain and get up into P1 of this Grand Prix once again. So it worked. That gamble worked. It took a while, but it worked. Lap 24, finally, they're on to intermediates. We've only got, though, a 3.7 gap to Drugovich. So, to be fair, that mistake did cost us a little bit. So, you know, we would have been maybe 15 seconds ahead of Drugovich, looking so comfy for the race win. But now there is half a chance that Drugovich can catch us with 3.7. Fresher intermediates, remember, as well. And a mistake like that is not going to help as well. We go opposite lock, we catch the car and somehow keep it going in a straight line. But we are flirting with a DNF here, and it's nearly the same place that we had that mistake earlier as well. But now the lead we had has been eroded. So Drugovich underneath 1 second in second place. We can't be making another mistake like that. Can we hold on to this race lead and get the win? 10 laps to go, older intermediates. But to be fair, as the laps go on, we actually grew that gap to nearly about 1 second here as we're really dancing the car around the circuit. Lap 30 on to 31, so about 5 laps to go in this race. But it is getting wetter and wetter out there, and it is, I think, getting towards the full wet region. But with only about 5 laps, is it worth the gamble? Will anyone else go on full wets, but I don't know. But one thing I can be for certain, it is getting trickier out there as we get caught up on the curb a little bit. And even our engineer is telling us it's a difficult situation because it is now time for people to start struggling, but there's only a certain amount of laps left. So do you make that decision? Who really knows? But we're going a bit slower now, and lap 32, Drugovich has caught us up and is going to go down the inside as we are drifting through the left-hander. Bit of contact made, and Drugovich all of a sudden is up into P1. We've lost the lead. He goes across us as we try to stay with him, but he's taken the lead from us. It's a smash and grab job at the end of the race with 4 laps to go. And the thing is, I'm struggling, but these AI, they're so pin perfect. They're doing pretty okay right now in what are very clearly full wet conditions as Verstappen goes for the overtake to get up into P3. So a bit of the old Verstappen being shown there, doing very well in these difficult wet conditions. But for us, we've just lost the lead. And remember, my tyres are a lot older than Drugovich's, and you know, we know, very well know, that in this transition period, the AI are so bloody good. We're going to try our best, though, to re-overtake him. On the outside we go. Can we get the traction? It's going to be so difficult. Just squeezing on the throttle to try and climb up the gears. Dose of battery will help us out to get back ahead of Drugovich, but the problem is, as we go defensive, he's just so good mid-apex. Round the outside he goes to maybe get back into the lead. We're going to force him wide, but it might be a futile effort because I'm just struggling. Perez is going to be out of the race. There's a double DNF for him on Saturday and Sunday, and that's crucial because that brings out a virtual safety car in a crucial point in the race where I'm honestly thinking it's time for full wets. There's only 3 laps left, but maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough. So under this virtual safety car, I mean, we gambled before in Inters. Why not continue to gamble here? It's how we got in this position. We're going to gamble. We're going for broke. We're going on to the full wets under the virtual safety car. Obviously, everyone going slower at a set delta time. So we'll effectively, we won't lose as much time in this pit stop as we normally do. Although it depends on when the virtual safety car ends, and it's going to end very soon. So about maybe 2/3 of this pit stop in the pit lane, we're under the virtual safety car. So we haven't, maybe made the most of it. You can't know when the virtual safety car is going to end, so we just went for it. And now the big question is the track wet enough that those intermediates stop working and slow the guys down ahead of us? And it is going to slow down George Russell, who is struggling for a bit of grip in Sector 2 at the end of lap 34, and we're going to power past him to get up into P4. But is it enough to catch up to Leclerc, Verstappen and Drugovich? Yellow flags ahead. Is there signs of struggle as behind Russell goes wide? So the track is getting very wet indeed, and some of these drivers are struggling more than others. I kind of need Verstappen, Leclerc and Drugovich to also face some struggles as we now go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Lap 36, Drugovich is in P1. There was a sign of a little bit of a drift there for him, and we have caught up to Verstappen and Leclerc. We've got supreme pace on these full wets, but is there enough time, and am I quick enough to catch up to Drugovich at the end of this lap? One thing is for certain, I have way more grip than these guys, because that's an easy dive bomb on Leclerc, and all that. You can see we're not really catching Verstappen in a straight line or getting great traction, but it's in the brake zone where we're gaining so much because we're able to come from so far back, get it slowed down and get up into P2. So are there enough brake zones for the rest of this lap? Half a lap left to catch up to Drugovich. 3.8. It's looking unlikely. He's up the road as well as his teammate, who's a lap down, I might want to add. And there's a bit of drifting going on for both of them as the track gets wetter and wetter. Is there time for us to catch up to Drugovich? 3.2 the gap is. Bottas is slow and he's gone wide, and Drugovich is also pretty damn slow. He's crawling through the last corner. He's gone wide, and on the corner exit, we're going to get the traction and we're going to win this Austrian Grand Prix. We've thrown the dice and we've won.
So after a day of mixed fortunes up and down the field, we bring today's race to a close. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
This win is one for the history books. What a gamble that was. Twice over intermediates. Maybe gambled a bit too early onto those intermediates, but, you know, you can say a lot of stuff in hindsight, but the gamble onto full wets worked out because by the time we got to that last sector, it got so wet that everyone was crawling around on those inters. It was one of those cases where the AI logic was clearly, they thought there was not enough laps, so it'd be worthwhile staying out, but in reality, it was getting rapidly worse, and the full wets were getting rapidly better for me, and we've come through for the victory. What a win. What a win. Our second win of the season. Obviously, the first one being Shanghai at the Chinese Grand Prix. Drugovich second. Verstappen gets the first podium of his career since like probably season 2, and Ferrari's first for probably season 2 as well. So Ferrari showing some signs of actually being back, and Verstappen showed his class in the wet today to get that podium ahead of Leclerc on those last dying laps. And because Leclerc was pushed down to P4, it means we gain a lot in the championship. So we're 22 points ahead of the next guy, which is Drugovich now, who gets up into P2 with that second place. He's been Mr. P2 really as of late. So consistent on that second step of the podium. Just that race win, that first race win of the season, elusive to him. But for us, we're in a really amazing position, and as we should be after a win like that. But in the constructors, it is a struggle. Second place, 9 points off Merck, and the problem is Tsunoda's not scoring a lot of points, so it is really a bit of a one-man team effort at the moment. But more on that later as we go on through the season. I guess we'll have to see how it develops. But what a Grand Prix today around Austria in the wet. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.